So what's happening currently? This is a potpourri of what's happening, and Owen mentioned some of these. So here we have the single biggest bank heist, or heists in history. Up to $1 billion may have been liberated, as it were, by a piece of malware, Carbonac. And this hit a number of banks, mainly in Eastern Europe. It was a very, very nasty little piece of malware. And basically, a number of things happened, but one of them was that ATMs began to spew out money at certain times, and individuals were there with sacks to grab them, the amount of money. One of the reasons they discovered this was that they made a mistake in their programming, and a bank, I think in the Ukraine, an ATM in the Ukraine, started to spew out money randomly. That's how bad it is. In relation to Target, I don't know if Owen mentioned it, the way that was discovered was by, I think it was the FBI phoning up said company and asking them were they aware that compromised credit cards were available on the dark web. The company was not aware. Now Target is a really, really big breach, you know. So the companies are often not aware, and that's a real problem. That's how Owen and the likes of himself make their money. Here's an interesting fellow, Mr. Barnum. A sucker is born every minute. This man made an awful lot of money selling tat, but then he became a philanthropist and gave it all back, or not all of it, but a lot of it. So here we're getting into the area of social engineering, which I think Owen mentioned. So why break down the door or sneak in through the window when you can be invited in? And that's what happens. You're invited in. The bad guy, a piece of malware comes in on the back of an email, and off we go. Tok was mentioned. Tok is really interesting. The bad guy or guys, I think there was two of them, or rather, they were the famous spotty teenagers. Most of the bad guys, if I might call them that, are not spotty teenagers. They're businessmen and women, as we saw in the earlier cartoon. But this was an example of the spotty teenager. The spotty teenager is going to be in some difficulty, it has to be said. We're talking here about a direct loss, calculated already at in excess of £35 million. Now that is a lot of money. You know, two spotty teenagers have caused £35 million in direct costs. What are direct costs? They are paying the likes of me, the likes of Deloitte, and a number of other providers of services to try and sort out the problem. It is extremely expensive to try and remedy a cyber breach. That's why Deloitte, Grant Thornton and the others make so much money out of it, and why you're very sensible if you're looking at this as a career opportunity. And indeed there are jobs, we know that, in the area. But it is extremely expensive to remedy this area. That is why a number of organizations increasingly... So in the US, the Department of Homeland Security has recommended insurance policies of up to $1 billion be available. But I've never seen anything over about 150 million, and that is a lot. I've never seen anything in Ireland even anywhere near that. This is in the US. So we're well off $1 billion in insurance. But if you take $1 billion policy, if an insurer takes $1 billion policy, that's not quite a total transfer of risk onto their shoulders, but it's not far off it. So, you know, there's a difference between insurance and indemnity. So it's a problem for the insurance sector, you know. But this is where things are going. The regulatory authorities, the law enforcement authorities are telling the private and public sector that they have to protect themselves. You can't legalize your way out of this one, as it were.
Your fridge can buy new products, new groceries. When it runs out of certain food, your kettle can now disclose your internal wireless password as well. So there's a lot of different security threats that are focused on new technologies.
So in terms of what I always found very interesting about this area was what was actually happening in Ireland. Some of the other great speakers who have spoken here tonight, they refer to people who are involved in hacking, criminals as they. They're kind of a group of people that are there, they exist, but no one kind of knows much about them. In this country, there is such a very negligible response from the security services, that is officially, and they come up with every single reason not to mount prosecutions, not to bring people to justice, but they refer to these people as they, and it's kind of just left hanging. So in the past number of years, I've made it my business to deal with people that are involved in mission. Where I think they become very, very dangerous is where they interface with an organised crime network that comes from maybe a different background, where the internet, online activity, financial activity, whatever it is, becomes the vehicle for committing what is a big fraud. And as Pierce was talking about there earlier, you've seen companies being shaken down for quite significant amounts of money, paying over money through ransomware, which is a modern day equivalent of blackmail, which is going on since the days of Adam and Eve. So these are effectively old crimes that are using the internet as a kind of vehicle, if you wish, for carrying them out. If you look then the state's response to this, the Irish Security Services and the Irish military are very, very adept at dealing with certain types of terrorism, for example, Republican terrorism, and they're bringing themselves up to speed on the type of Islamic terrorism that's now presenting itself as a problem to Europe. They're not so good at dealing with hostile governments that are operating in Ireland and may have agents operating here. The military deal with that end of our national security in that, and who had kind of led the way in many ways on spotting this problem on a European level and urging policing partners across Europe to take sort of decisive action on this before it became a much bigger problem. The problem is at the moment. But that unit is extraordinarily small. They're really, really under-resourced, and the type of equipment they have is almost outdated when it arrives.
We say at DocuSign that DocuSign is the most fastest, most secure way to make every agreement and approval digital, so you can help keep you moving forward in life and your business moving forward also. As their EU Information Security Director, I totally believe that it is ingrained in everything we do, information security, in our people, our processes, our technologies, and it shines through to our products and our services. I used their three brand aspects of their brand: choice, experience and trust, when I was making my decision to go to DocuSign. I believe in their product, the security framework, their company core values. One of them is integrity, and that's something that we all sign up to as information security.